An individual named Vanessa Lucido, who is well known for her leadership and her ability to trust her instincts, is currently investigating the enigmatic Forgotten Shaft on Oak Island. She is not looking toward the well-known money pit. Rather, she is looking in the direction of a neglected area of the island that is surrounded by forests and is almost completely unexplored. What is buried close to 10x is a truth that is much more explosive than anyone has ever dared to believe, and what is hidden beneath it has the potential to upset the very basis of history itself. 10x was an odd experiment that took place several decades ago, but the majority of people have forgotten about it. For Vanessa, it is both an opportunity and a matter that has not yet been resolved. Over the course of more than 4 decades, Dan Blankenship, a man whose mind could outpace the majority of robots, struggled to scratch the surface of the ground there. In his early years, he did not have access to expensive equipment or major sponsors. Nonetheless, his obsession and knowledge were so strong that no one else believed in them. Unbelievably, Vanessa was able to see things in a matter of seconds that would have taken others weeks to see. As far as Vanessa is aware, the reality that is buried close to 10x is significantly more explosive than anyone has ever dared to believe. The truth is something that 10x continues to uphold, even after all of that labor. Nothing has been proven, there is no jackpot, and there is no major revelation. And it's possible that this is what keeps it going. The area is filled with unfinished stories, and Vanessa is aware of this fact. The reason she is so determined is because she is not merely interested, rather, she is determined. It is the woodland section that is located behind the money pit that is the one that truly opens everything up. Over the course of several years, little attention was paid to this grove of trees. In addition to being nondescript and quiet, it does not scream treasure. That, however, is the purpose. Since the beginning of time, the island has been able to deceive people into chasing noise, distractions, and decoys. But what if the solutions to your questions are hidden away in the most secluded areas? In this situation, Vanessa is not making any assumptions. She has been able to substantiate her instincts with each passing season thanks to new findings. Rubies, pieces of beautiful jewelry, a cross, and even antique paper that should not have survived were among the items that were found. In no way did these originate from the money pit. These individuals originated from various locations all across the island. The sneaker arrived at that moment. The worn-down heel of a shoe that was dated back to the year 1492 is not just a clue. It is a scream through time. After conducting further investigation, it became abundantly evident that Oak Island is concealing more than one tale. It is possible that the money pit is not the primary stage. In that case, the locations that Vanessa mentioned, namely 10x and the forest behind the pit, could very well be the locations where the last moments take place. Those forests that are located behind the money pit are not simply property. Rather, they are a component of a design, and the person who created that design did not want it to be immediately noticeable. It's not the first time Vanessa has dug, but even she agrees that this particular section of Oak Island has a distinct atmosphere. The vibrations are shifting, the ground is not lying in the same way, and the measurements repeat strange things about the environment. Something is holding its breath beneath these trees. You can feel it. On top of that, it has been retaining it for centuries. Over the course of several centuries, Oak Island, a mystery island located in the Caribbean, has been the location of a great deal of discoveries and riddles. The history of the island is not just about discoveries of treasure, but also about technological advancements that have been concealed inside its layers. The fact that fragments of garnet, jade, paper, and a cross were found on the island supports the hypothesis that the island was visited by a variety of people at a variety of times, each of whom left behind artifacts. These things are not merely remnants, rather they are disruptions, which serve as reminders that history is not only asymmetrical, but also that it is being concealed. According to Vanessa Lucido, Oak Island is behaving in a manner that is reminiscent of a place that is composed of layers, each of which was deposited by a different hand, at a different time, and for a variety of reasons. Due to the fact that it contains a wealth of knowledge regarding Christopher Columbus's voyage across the Atlantic, the heel of the shoe, which dates back to 1492, is a bomb. The fact that a shoe from that particular year was discovered buried on Oak Island raises issues about whether or not people were there on the island before we believed they were, as well as the reason why they made the decision to conceal it. The unexplored regions of the island, including its forests and chapters, have not been broken up in the same way that the rest of the island has been. The pit has not been the location of some of the most mind-boggling events that have ever taken place on the island. As an illustration, tunnel systems that did not correspond with any known map or timber constructions that appeared to be too sophisticated to be colonial, but too hidden to be recent, were not discovered in the locations where they were intended to be when they were discovered. Instead, they were discovered in such a manner that nobody was meant to be looking for them in the first place. It is possible that some of the techniques that were utilized on Oak Island do not correspond to any known civilizations and appear too early. These techniques are not consistent with the time period that we are informed they originated from. It is possible, for instance, that wooden platforms that are buried more than 100 feet beneath, properly stacked and correctly aligned, and made of materials that are hundreds of years old, were buried in order to prevent something from entering or leaving. This kind of effort is not the result of someone being desperate. Rather, it is the result of design. It is Vanessa's hypothesis that begins to shift the discourse, arguing that Oak Island is not simply a place to hide. Rather, it is a repository for information, science, and items that were intended to vanish from the world with the intention of being hidden away. The rubies, the cross, the parchment, and the shoe were all maintained as if someone knew they would be required once more at some point in the future. What we are looking at is not a burial site, but rather a relay, a pass-off, a spot that is used and reused by people that share something in common, a wish to remain concealed. If the materials that were discovered across Oak Island reflect different time periods and multiple visitors, all of whom left bits behind, then we are not experiencing a burial site. Oak Island, which is a global network of knowledge burial sites, is a fascinating mystery that has been the subject of a great deal of investigation and discussion. The history of the island can be traced back to the period when Dan Blankenship excavated a shaft in the bottom of the island, under the impression that he had touched something. The hazard, on the other hand, rose as the depth of the shaft climbed, which raised the likelihood of cave-ins and flooding. This lends credence to the idea that the island was not merely concealing something, but rather guarding it. On account of the fact that the more she investigates historical data, the more abnormalities she discovers, Vanessa Lucido is now urging her to return to the location. Voids that do not correspond to natural formations, metal in places where clay should be, pressure fluctuations that indicate the presence of chambers, and chambers that were deliberately created. In the event that this is accurate, it indicates that a person possessed technology that was significantly more advanced than what history attributes to them. That we are dealing with something that is much older than pirates or lost scrolls is indicated by this fact. However, the magnetic readings on the island are inaccurate. Compasses are spinning, GPS signals are jumbled, and equipment are malfunctioning. However, this does not occur by chance. Rather, it is due to the fact that the magnetic readings of the island are inaccurate, creating interference, scrambling the sensors, making the land itself confuse the search, and layering distortion deep into the bedrock are all methods that could be utilized in order to safeguard a system that is underground. This is especially true in the woods that are located behind the money pit, as they do not behave properly in that area. When it comes to Oak Island, the truth is not concerned with misplacement, but rather with erasure. The idea that the truth is not about misplacement, but rather about erasure, is something that Vanessa Lucido is beginning to believe. The woods that are located behind the money pit are extremely significant because of the manner in which Oak Island reveals the truth in pieces, and the way in which each new discovery hints at a more extensive narrative only to disappear into quiet before the story is finished. Their past has not been rewritten, they have not been overdug, and they have not been exhausted. The woodlands behind the money pit are important because they have not been overdug, exhausted, or redefined without their agreement. The time has arrived to discuss. Ground-penetrating radar reflected back differently, soil layers changed, and void-shaped pockets of resistance developed. This is in addition to the shoe from 1492, the parchment, the cross, ornate items that shouldn't be here, the perfect underground walls, the magnetic interference that cannot be explained, and 10x data that shows huge pressure fluctuations at certain depths. Vanessa focuses on understanding the terrain, listening to the gaps between findings, and monitoring trees. She sees something awful and beautiful there, a secret system created by brains who understood geometry, secrecy, and time. A system that could securely store data for centuries or longer. If Oak Island was one, there are others. If even one of them had technology, skills, or texts from unknown civilizations, all we know is in doubt. Are the truth and Oak Island's wealth too perilous for history? What if the genuine discovery is evidence that our timeline has been modified for eons, not gold?